Going on a business trip for about a month. My husband wrote just that in a letter. At that moment, I knew for sure. Our marriage had come to an end. That night, alone in my lonely room, I was deep in thought. What was that sound just now? Late at night, while my husband was away on a business trip, I suddenly heard a baby crying. Rushing to the entrance, I found a letter. It read, "I cannot raise this child." Shockingly, there was a baby in the cardboard box with the letter. Why is there a baby here? This was a situation I had only seen in dramas, now suddenly befalling me. Confused, I instinctively called my husband. "Don't call me at such a busy time. Don't you realize you're disturbing my work?" My husband was angry just from the call. However, as soon as I mentioned the baby, he responded with astonishing words. "We are going to raise that baby. Understand?" He said this almost spitefully before hanging up. I was troubled by his words. There must be something hidden behind them. If my husband was going to act like this, I had my own thoughts. Even with one or two more troubles now, it wouldn't be a problem. So, I decided to uncover everything hidden and bring him down. I am Caroline, a 40-year-old housewife. Originally, I worked as an office employee but quit my job at a major company when I married Mark. 5 years ago, I met Mark. He was hired as a new sales representative at the company I worked for. He seemed cheerful and somewhat frivolous, making me doubt his suitability for sales. But at work, he was like a different person, speaking clearly and surprising colleagues. I still vividly remembered that strong impression. A month later, as I rested on a bench in the park near my office, a man in a suit approached and asked, "May I sit here?" Though I found it bothersome, I agreed without looking at his face, intending to leave. But the man hurriedly stopped me. "Thank you for everything. Caroline, you look well." Wondering how he knew my name, I turned to him. "Oh, Mr. Anderson? Thank you for your help back then." "No, thank you. Your help made my work go smoothly." Reuniting with Mark, he was as frivolous as before, chatting a lot with me. Surprisingly, I found myself talking naturally about work and everyday life. From then on, Mark was always there during my breaks. Even in those short moments, I found joy in being with him. Gradually, I wanted to be with him all the time, not just during breaks. And Mark felt the same. "Let's go on a date, not just for an hour, a real date." Yes, I'd be delighted. This date marked the beginning of our relationship, and a year later, we were married. And now, we are in our 4th year as a couple. Caroline, thank you for always being by my side. Yes, thank you too. I'm happy that you always cherish me. We celebrated our wedding anniversary together. The moment I realized how glad I was to have married Mark, my heart filled up and tears overflowed. It's becoming a tradition for you to cry every year, Caroline. Don't say that. They're tears of happiness, so just turn a blind eye, okay? Okay, I got it. I thought this warm happiness would last forever. But after 5 years of marriage, I realized it was an illusion. My husband had been coming home much later in the past 6 months. He used to always come home on time, but recently, due to being busier at work, he often returns after 8 p.m. Mark, how long will this overtime continue? It's been half a year already. This never happened before. Don't you think it's strange? Recently, the company's sales have dropped. If it continues, even our bonuses might get cut. So, everyone is working desperately. I can't just leave on time. Normally, I would believe my husband's words, but I couldn't fully trust them this time. His company is quite famous in this region, with increasing sales each year and constantly hiring new employees. Could such a well-known company suddenly drop its sales? And it's unheard of for a company to impose half a year of overtime on its employees due to low sales. That would be extremely exploitative. I didn't want to doubt my husband, but I couldn't shake off my suspicions. Oh, I just remembered. I need to go out for a bit. Huh? You've only been home for a few minutes, haven't you? I'm just meeting a friend, it's fine, right? Considering he had been working overtime recently, I agreed to let him go. But you have work tomorrow, so don't stay out too late, okay?
Yeah.
I understand. Thanks. I'll be going now. My husband quickly changed into his casual clothes and left to meet his friend with a happy face. That night, he didn't return until well past midnight. Oh, Caroline, sorry. Did I wake you? No, it's okay. You're quite late.
Yeah.
We got really caught up in our conversation and it got this late. I see. Sorry, but I'm sleepy. I'm going to bed first. Okay. Good night. The next morning, when I woke up, my husband, who usually sleeps beside me, was nowhere to be seen. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I looked around, but he wasn't there. Checking my phone, it was just past 5 a.m., and the alarm hadn't gone off yet. Mark, where are you? I called out, but there was no reply from my husband. Wondering where he went, I headed to the living room and found him sound asleep on the sofa. Huh? You slept here? I tried to wake him up, suggesting he'd be more comfortable in bed, but he didn't stir. Then something fell from his hand to my feet. A phone? I picked up the fallen phone, intending to place it on a nearby table, and saw an image of a woman's back on it. Who could this be? A celebrity, maybe? I shrugged it off and placed the phone on the table. I'm fully awake now, maybe I'll go for a walk. Leaving my husband on the sofa, I decided to go for a walk. As soon as I stepped outside, a pleasant sunrise and a refreshing breeze greeted me. Wow. This feels so good. An early morning walk on a sunny day is truly invigorating. It seems like today will be a day spent in a good mood. After about an hour's walk, when I returned home, I found my husband looking sternly at his phone in the living room. Good morning, Mark. What's with the gloomy face? Would you like something to drink? No, not now. Usually, he would respond with a smile, but today he replied with a sullen face. Maybe it's because he just woke up. That's what I thought, but then I realized something was different when he said the following. Can you stop bothering me with your voice every morning? Huh? It's not just annoying. It's irritating. I was so shocked that I lost my words. I had never heard such harsh words from my husband before. Then, my husband went straight to the bedroom, changed into his suit, and left for work without saying a word or having breakfast. He even skipped our usual
Goodbye.
hug. Confused by my husband's change this morning, I was doing household chores when an unknown call came to my phone. Normally, I don't answer calls from unknown numbers or private calls, but this time I did. Hello? Oh, hello, is this Caroline? Yes, but who is this? It's been a long time. It's Kate. Kate Owen. We used to work together, do you remember? Kate.
Ah.
I remember now. After graduating from university about 12 years ago, I worked part-time at a store for a short period. Kate, who was still a high school student then, worked there with me. Why is she contacting me now? And how did she get my phone number? Wow, it's been a long time, Kate. I'm surprised to get a call from you. Me too. I never thought I'd call you. If it weren't for an unexpected event, I wouldn't have called. But since it happened, I thought I might as well call you. Kate was like this even back then. She had no bad intentions, but she always had a knack for hitting the nerve. So, what's this unexpected event? Don't be surprised, okay? Actually, I'm working at the same company as your husband, Mark, now. Really? You are? When I heard from Mark that his wife's name was Caroline, I wondered if it was you. I asked him, and it turned out to be true. So, I asked Mark and he gave me your number. I never imagined that a girl I worked with briefly in the past is now working at the same company as my husband. This is indeed unexpected. But at the same time, I felt a slight distrust towards my husband for giving out my number so easily without asking me. I'm happy to receive your call, but aren't you at work? Is it okay to be calling like this? Oh, it's not okay. But I got to hear your voice, so I'm going back to work now. I'll call you later. Excuse me. She's still as energetic as ever. But I never thought I'd hear her voice again after 15 years. Remembering the past made me feel a bit sentimental. It's been 15 years since then. And about that night. I'm home. Welcome back. You must be tired from work. I've prepared the bath, so you can go first. Huh? Behind my husband, a woman appeared and greeted us with a good evening. Are you from his company? Caroline, it's me. Kate. To my surprise, my husband had brought Kate, who had suddenly called me, back home with him. They both entered the house carrying large bags. Seemingly from shopping they did on their way home. Wait, just wait a minute. I had no idea you were bringing Kate home. You know, when Kit called you at noon, she said she'd call back later, right? Didn't you expect that she might come over today? If you're my wife, you should be able to foresee that much. I was a bit irritated by my husband's nonsensical behavior. Especially in front of another person, but I endured it. And, calling Kate, Kit. Are they that close? I heard Kate's laugh for just a moment. What was that just now? Curious about why she laughed, before I knew it, they had moved to the living room. After letting out a big sigh to calm myself down, I hurried to the living room too. There, they started to lay out a significant amount of alcohol and snacks from the bags on the table. What? Wait a minute. What are you planning to do here? We're starting a room drinking party. Mark said let's drink at home. So I bought a lot of alcohol.
Yay!
This isn't enough for snacks. Hey, Caroline, can you make something for us? I'm troubled by such a sudden request. I only prepared dinner for 2 tonight. After I said that, Mark coldly glanced at me and said, Then, why don't you, Caroline, go buy something now? What kind of way is that to speak? What? Do you have a problem with me, even though you eat with my salary every day? His cold attitude followed by a commanding tone. Watching my husband's behavior as if he had transformed into a different person, I couldn't hide my agitation. At that moment, Kate looked at me and smirked meaningfully. Despite being in my own home, I felt an overwhelming sense of alienation. Unable to bear it, I immediately went out to shop. What is this, really? Even while feeling anxious about being seen by neighbors or acquaintances? Complaints kept spilling out of my mouth non-stop. I couldn't stop even while shopping at the supermarket. This should be enough, right? After finishing shopping and returning to the apartment, about an hour had passed. I stopped in front of the door, took a deep breath, and then opened it to find the apartment eerily quiet. Oh. Are they both not here? I couldn't hear their voices. Quietly opening the living room door, I saw the two of them, sleeping side by side on the sofa like lovers. I was stunned and couldn't move, unable to accept the reality before my eyes. Since that day, Kate's visits to our house have become more frequent. As if it were normal, Kate would come over and skillfully start pouring drinks for Mark. "Hey, Caroline, I'm hungry. Prepare something tasty. I want steak. Please and thank you." She wants steak. Got it, go buy it now. I was treated like a convenient housekeeper. My husband was incredibly sweet to Kate, and it seemed like he almost ignored my existence. Sensing this, Kate became even more pleased and started to mock me with her words. I had never felt so pitiable about myself. I harbored only negative feelings toward the two of them. Since Kate's call, I had been living these distressing and tumultuous days. I endured persistent bullying and verbal abuse from my husband and Kate. I wanted to escape this miserable situation as soon as possible, longing to end it immediately. About 6 months after Kate first came to our house, she suddenly stopped showing up. Around the same time, my husband began coming home later and later. One morning, as this pattern continued, I woke up in bed to find my husband not beside me. When I went to the living room, there was a lone letter on the table. Going on a business trip for about a month. My husband wrote just that in a letter. At that moment, I knew for sure. Our marriage had come to an end. That night, alone in my lonely room, I was deep in thought. What was that sound just now? Late at night, while my husband was away on a business trip, I suddenly heard a baby crying. Rushing to the entrance, I found a letter. It read, "I cannot raise this child." Shockingly, there was a baby in the cardboard box with the letter. Why is there a baby here? This was a situation I had only seen in dramas, now suddenly befalling me. Confused, I instinctively called my husband. "Don't call me at such a busy time. Don't you realize you're disturbing my work?" My husband was angry just from the call. However, as soon as I mentioned the baby, he responded with astonishing words. "We are going to raise that baby. Understand?" He said this almost spitefully before hanging up. I was troubled by his words. There must be something hidden behind them. If my husband was going to act like this, I had my own thoughts. Even with 1 or 2 more troubles now, it wouldn't be a problem. So, I decided to uncover everything hidden and bring him down. After that, I quickly prepared something and left the apartment. I then drove for 2 hours. It's been a while since I've been back here. Even if I left the apartment, I had a place to return to. "Oh, welcome back. I'm home, Mom." I had informed my mother beforehand that I would be returning home. At that time, I had also asked her for a favor regarding a certain matter. "Mom, about that favor I asked for the other day. Everything is reported, so all that's left is for you to do, Caroline." Though I had returned home, I thought of refreshing from all the fatigue I had accumulated. But I had no time for that. In a month, Mark would return from his business trip. I had to complete the mission I had planned by then. One day, while cleaning my room, I received a call from my husband. "Hello, what is it?" "Hey, Caroline. Where the hell are you right now?" As usual, my husband spoke in an intimidating manner on the phone. "What are you talking about all of a sudden? Why is someone on a business trip calling me? I don't care about work. Where the hell are you? You managed to come back in the middle of a business trip. I'm amazed you can keep a job with such a careless attitude. A decent company would be the first to lay you off. What the hell are you talking about? Shut up. Tell me where you are right now." My husband kept demanding to know my whereabouts, and our conversation was getting nowhere. "I'm at my parents' house." "Your parents' house, huh? The kid's with you, right?" "Of course. Sleeping peacefully on the bed." "Listen, bring the kid and come back home right now." "Got it? Hurry up and come back." Hearing his rough words, so different from the husband I knew, brought back memories of my old husband. You've changed quite a bit. You never used to say things like that. People change over time. But don't forget what I just said. Got it. My husband, raising his voice, abruptly ended the call. This is just incoherent. Could it be that my husband didn't notice it when he returned to the apartment? It should have been obvious if he had been home. Maybe. Yes, that would make sense. From the phone call, it became clear that my husband wasn't at home. Seizing the opportunity, I hurriedly drove to the apartment. Upon arriving, I immediately picked up it from the table and headed straight to a certain location. About 20 minutes later, I arrived at a single-family apartment. So, he lives in such a nice place. A familiar compact car was parked in front of the apartment. Just as I expected. The parked car, my husband's own vehicle, was solid evidence that he was here. The reason he had to end his business trip and come to this place was. At that moment, a woman's scream, "Help! Stop it!" came from inside the apartment, followed by the sound of a man shouting angrily. This could be serious. I quickly took out my phone from my bag and called a certain place. But even in the few seconds it took to make the call, the woman's screams and the man's curses continued from inside. Pick up quickly, I thought, when a car approached from behind. You are? Despite ringing the bell several times, no one opened the door from inside. Thinking maybe. I tried the doorknob, and, as expected, the door opened. I quietly opened the front door and called inside, but there was no response. Then, from the back of the room, I heard a voice shouting, "Someone help!" I immediately headed towards the room where the voice came from. And there was my husband, with a murderous look, confronting Kate. "Why are you here? What are you doing? A grown man shouldn't be confronting a woman with brute force like this." "Shut up. You don't know anything. This is a problem between me and this woman." "A problem, huh? That's you, isn't it?" I thought to myself. "Help me, Caroline." He suddenly started hitting me. It seems so. No need to state the obvious from what I see here. What? What do you mean by that? You just said it's wrong for a man to be rough with a woman. And yet you talk to me like that. I'm in such a terrible situation. Yes, just be quiet for now. I understand that. I have a lot of things to do. Kate was making a fuss, but I had other priorities. Stepping outside the house, I approached the car parked outside and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting. Please proceed." A well-built man stepped out of the car. Together with him, I headed back to the room where the two were. "Who's that guy? What? Why?" Seeing the man enter the room, both my husband and Kate froze. "You understand, don't you, Kate? This is your father, Vincent." "What?" My husband, upon realizing that the man was Kate's father, drastically changed from his aggressive demeanor and quickly distanced himself from Kate. At the same time, seeing her father, Kate turned pale and silently stood still, looking down. "Nice to meet you. I'm Kate's father, Vincent. Caroline called me here, but what exactly is going on? Kate, what is your relationship with this man?" Vincent's low voice, filled with authority and tension, made it clear both were frightened. "Vincent, this man is my husband." "What? Are you saying he's been having an affair with my daughter?" "Yes." "Well, that's essentially the situation." The moment Vincent became certain of the affair, his face turned into a terrifying expression. He glared at my husband with his stern eyes, approaching him menacingly. My husband, now petrified, couldn't move. It was like a frog being stared down by a snake. Vincent's furious face was now right in front of my husband's. At this point, Mark was so panicked that he didn't know what to do. You reap what you sow. At this line, my husband seemed to lose all his energy, slumping down to sit on the floor. I then quickly took out aita from my bag and held it up in front of my husband. You might recognize this. It's a divorce paper. I've already signed my name, so all that's left is for you to sign. Please. I said this and laid the divorce paper and a pen in front of him. My husband signed it with a weak, drooping head. Thank you for signing. About the compensation, a lawyer will contact you later. Once that's settled, we can have a proper discussion. My husband just nodded silently without saying a word. But the situation was far from over. The mastermind who wrecked my life was still right there. You're the worst. All this time, you've been selfishly playing with me. You kept saying we'd divorce, and now it ends like this. Kate spat these words at my former husband. But hearing this, he suddenly regained his energy and became defensive. I was playing with you? That's rich. You're the one who approached me, saying you've always liked me, that you'd be happy to be with me. If it weren't for you, my life would never have spiraled like this. What? Believing such superficial words is your fault. Besides, you're delusional if you think you're so charming. You've ruined my life too. And now, to have my father see this mess, it's just the worst. What? You're the worst one here. I said I didn't want it. But you were the one who seduced me, saying you wanted our baby. And then, as soon as the child was born, you said this wasn't the plan. That you never expected to get pregnant, and you wanted to focus on your own life. So let's break up, but you didn't want to take care of the child, so I should raise them. You're much worse. I never said anything that terrible. Listening to such a foolish conversation was a waste of time and nothing was progressing. Okay, that's enough. I understand both of your points, so please stop now. It's frustrating to listen to. Both of them, panting heavily, turned their eyes to me. They seemed about to say something. But the presence of Vincent standing beside me was too intimidating for them to speak. Vincent, with his imposing figure, scared them into silence. Understandable, given how intimidating such a burly and stern-looking man can be. Then, suddenly, Vincent asked Kate, "What's all this about? You have this man's child? Huh? Is it true that you're pregnant with his child?" Well, no. It's not like that, Dad. This man did it forcibly, it wasn't my intention. I had completely forgotten. I hadn't yet told Vincent about Kate's pregnancy. What? Why is it my fault? Weren't you the one who seduced me aggressively? I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? Babies don't just appear out of nowhere. Pouring gasoline on the fire. What the hell is wrong with you? Exactly. If you hadn't touched me, none of this would have happened. Well, you shouldn't have initiated it in the first place. Stop it, Caroline. Adding more fuel to the fire. I was almost over it and didn't think I needed this anymore. But since I have the opportunity, I'll give these to both of you. I scattered several photos on a nearby table. They were evidence of their affair. These are proof photos. I captured both of you in the act of cheating. It was quite difficult, you know. While you were away on your business trip, I prepared the divorce papers and hired a good detective to investigate. It was tough to gather all this in such a short time, but I did it. Make sure you take a good look. Why would you put so much effort into such things? Of course, I would. Preparing divorce papers is easy. But gathering evidence of you two cheating is hard. It was definitely the right choice to rely on a professional for this. It cost me a fair amount of money, but thanks to that, I now have proof of your infidelity. I was a bit late in showing these photos. But I need to deeply imprint the undeniable fact of your affair into your minds. The last straw was scattering the affair photos, leaving both utterly dejected. Just as I thought it was over. Hey. You two better be prepared. Prepared? Dad, what do you mean? Vincent had only recently learned about their affair, and that too only through their conversation. Confronted with the photographic evidence of the affair, he realized their infidelity was true. I'm taking Kate home right now. What we'll do after that, we'll discuss once we're home. And you have to pay Caroline a proper compensation. I'll introduce you to a place where you can earn a good living. You'll need money urgently. The two seemed frozen by Vincent's words. A few days later, both left their jobs. The affair had spread throughout the company, making them uncomfortable. Later, Vincent told me that after Kate was taken back home, she repeatedly expressed remorse, trying to seek forgiveness. However, her parents' anger was unyielding, and she was eventually kicked out with her baby. Now, she lives modestly in an old apartment, working day and night to raise her baby. As for my former husband, not only does he pay me compensation but also child support. Vincent got him a well-paying job, which apparently involves working at sea for months without coming back. Well, that's what you get for such betrayal. Meanwhile, I stayed at my parents' house. With my mother handling the housework, I managed to find a job at a new company. I've built different relationships and am leading a life filled with more joy than before. My parents keep asking, when will you marry again? But I think I'll refrain from marriage for a while. If I meet someone wonderful, I'll reconsider then. For now, I just want to enjoy and cherish this life.